share the concerns expressed in the most recent A428 LLF about the future proofing of the A428 busway scheme. Given the preferred 3A route is quite likely to run right along the entire length of both Hardwick and Coton villages, and given such, future proofing seems quite likely to involve buses travelling at 100 miles per hour or more. I can only imagine that the infrastructure required to keep our communities safe will be visually very significant indeed. I therefore ask you to release details of what is the worst case scenario. This is a major change from the scheme that has been consulted upon. So any decision that rules out alternatives should not be taken in September. In any case, no decision should be made until the true facts are known. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Joseph. And in accordance with practice, your question will be wrapped up either by Chris in his talk or in the board discussion later. Ed Bradbury.
I spoke in great detail at the Joint Assembly last week, so I'm not going to repeat all the detail. I'm just going to focus on 6 issues and associated questions that underscore the concerns of the A428 LLF ballot scheme as voiced at our latest meeting on the 17th of July. So it was a good turnout of the meeting. Members were representing communities all along the route attended and made their views known. So there were 6 district councillors, 10 parish councillors, 5 residents associations, 2 county councillors, 2 city councillors and 3 special interest groups. And this is a summary of what they said, or what we agreed. So, 6 questions. My first question relates to our Resolution 1, passed 23 for 2 abstentions. The Greater Cambridge Partnership is requested to defer decisions on the A428 busway until such time as both the high-level mass transit study, as proposed by the GCP, and the feasibility studies on light rail, as proposed by the Combine Authority, have been completed and published, with adequate time being allowed for the public to review and comment on these documents. The general consensus, following Mayor Palmer's address to us, was that it would be premature to take critical and costly decisions on the A428 busway in September. To proceed would be on the basis of insufficient evidence and lack of knowledge of alternative options, and would demonstrate a lack of coordination in the respective transport strategies of the GCP and the Combined Authority. If we proceed regardless, we may end up with something incompatible, irreversible, and having cost a lot of money. So question 1 is, will you consider deferring decisions on the scheme until RMT feasibility studies are complete and all the facts are known? Question 1. For my questions 2 and 3, I refer to page 16 of your agenda document pack. The schemes currently being developed within Tranche 1 will be done so based...
I'm sorry, page which?
16. And I'm just, and I think it's second.
We have different numbers on our pages, so it's difficult actually for us to...
It'll be 130 something.
No, it's on the RMT.
Oh, sorry. Can you just give it 2 seconds?
Item 7.
Okay. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just want to make sure we know what you're asking us to look at. Okay, thank you.
The schemes currently being developed within Tranche 1 will be done so based on future-proofing for possible implementation of the identified appropriate form of future mass rapid transit where required. So our Resolution 2 stated that the LLF does not consider option 3A to be a suitable alignment for rapid mass transit, given its proximity to rural communities, the amount of infrastructure required to keep our communities safe, and its impact on sensitive green belt areas. We ask that consideration is given instead to developing a more suitable alignment. This future-proofing agenda is a significant departure, we feel, from the original A428 scheme brief, and is not something that the public have been consulted upon. An RMT bus could be travelling at over 100 miles an hour, requires as straight a path as possible through the middle of some of the most highly valued green belts around Cambridge, so much so that it's littered with National Trust covenants. Furthermore, since the current 3A path runs hard against the north side of 2 of our villages, This must also raise safety and visual impact concerns. So question 2 is that we ask the GCP to clarify the size and extent of infrastructure that would be required for option 3A to take an as yet unspecified RMT scheme in order that we can understand the implications. To suggest new alignments is out of scope for the LLF, but given that Girton Interchange is central to the solution currently being investigated by the Combined Authority, the idea of linking with it might make sense. It might also prove timely, given changes to Girton are quite likely to be part of the Oxford to Cambridge Expressway project, and these will certainly impact the A428 scheme. We have submitted a separate, very detailed question on this issue, which we would appreciate a reply. So question 3 is, does the Executive Board agree with the LLF that the option 3A alignment is potentially unsuitable for an unknown future RMT system? And will the Executive Board consider developing a more flexible alignment, more likely to link successfully with the wider transport schemes currently under consideration? My question 4 stems from our resolution 3, which was that the Camborne to Cambridge busway project should constitute no more than a low intervention solution along the lines of the LLF's option 6 and or including smart transport measures. This would allow those living west of Cambridge to access the city quickly and reliably, yet would be far less expensive and would offer greater flexibility when RMT decisions are made. But given the uncertainty of RMT, the LLF considers option 6 to actually be the best strategic fit of the A428 busway options on the table, because improvement could be immediate, inexpensive and potentially reversible. So question 4 is, we welcome GCP's first stage work on option 6, but will you recommend taking forward option 6 for further assessment? That's question 4. So presumably central to your decision is whether to do so is the information contained in the new MCAF table. And my next question relates to our resolution 4, which was that the LLF endorses the technical group scoring of options 1, 3A and 6 as a fair and transparent appraisal. I think you have our rescoring of that somewhere in your packet. I'm not clear where. When we met back in April to present option 6 to you, you agreed that a small LLF subgroup could liaise with officers and the project consultants and agree the criteria by which options 3A, 1 and 6 would be assessed. This was so we could all be reassured that the comparison was done in a fair and transparent way. We welcomed the collaboration and met several times, and then the consultants unilaterally scored each of the options. And we have identified clear bias and inaccuracies in their scoring. However, before I discuss the implications of that, the table reveals a true telling reality, and that is for almost £60 million of additional capital costs, plus tens of millions more of maintenance, consultancy and subsidies. All that option 3A is offering, and this is by the consultant's own admission, is at most a slender 4-minute journey time saving inbound, 2 minutes saving outbound, and a meagre 3% additional modal shift. Surely that money could be better spent elsewhere. That one is rhetorical. But Dr. Fox's question provides the substance of our dissatisfaction with the scoring, and I wasn't going to repeat it, and I hope you will arrive in time. But the consultant told us last Monday that they would be issuing a rebuttal of our findings. We don't want a rebuttal, just the opportunity to continue to collaborate and arrive at a consensus position on the MCAF. And this is important because currently the LLF does not believe the assessment of option 6 will be fair and transparent based on what we've seen. So question 5 is, will you ask the officers to collaborate again with the LLF and try to produce a consensus position with regard to the scoring of the MCAF table? Finally, park and ride sites. So we greatly welcome the decision of GCP in March to extend the search for suitable park and ride sites, and we're given the opportunity to review the terms of reference for the study. So we're grateful for all of that. But why though, were the 3 highest scoring sites in the Mott MacDonald report not selected as the shortlist? That would have been logical. Why have 2 sites at Maddenley Marsh been retrospectively included, including Crowley again, but not even in its amended October 2016 form? And as for the new proposal under the water tower at the end of Long Road, the LLF would like to draw the board's attention to the fact that it can be clearly seen from 3 counties, 12 miles away. But our question 6 is, will the Executive Board at least uphold the Joint Assembly's recommendations to remove Crumley from the shortlist, please? And a reminder to end with, the LLF again requests that GCP consider investigating inbound flow control for the A1303. A resolution calling, asking you to do so was unanimously passed in the meeting on the 17th of March, but no response has yet been received. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. I don't know if we got in writing your questions. No. So can I just very quickly summarise what I scribbled down? I think 6 questions. First is, and again, paraphrase, would we effectively defer the study?
Yeah.
The second was your page 16 question about infrastructure needed to future-proof everything. Third was your Carpen interchange question.
Yeah, more flexible alignment, likely to link with wider transport schemes.
Fourth was, will we be taking option 6 forward?
Yeah.
Which is sort of recommendation 3D, I think.
Yeah.
3C.
Yeah. Can we re-collaborate on the MCAP table?
On the scoring and the park and ride, which is sort of 3B on the list of recommendations. And then finally, I don't know if this is a question or just a point about inbound flow control.
Just a reminder.
Great, wonderful. Thank you, Helen. So now, Chris, do you want to? Oh, I'm sorry. Question. We're struggling because the desks are so small in this one, right? Is Dr. Fox here? No, Ellen Treacy.
Good afternoon. With reference to table 15 on pages 153 and 154 of the board papers, I and others have noted many varying inconsistencies in the scoring. In particular, I've noted that the promoters of option 3A, transport officers, have estimated that option 3A would deliver a modal shift from car to bus of 31%, compared to 28% for option 6, a very small difference. How many real people does that 3% represent? And given the difference in capital costs, what does that equate to in pounds per person?
Thank you, Mr. Treacy. Mr. Burford.
Good afternoon. Last week, the GCP Joint Assembly voted 10-1 with 3 abstentions. Since writing this, I've had a chance to review the video, and it may well have been 9-1. I think probably I counted my own vote there. But anyway, they voted strongly in favour of removing Cromley from the A428 Camborne to Cambridge Park and Ride shortlist. In order to restore some public confidence, will the board please confirm that this democratic decision will be upheld? If the board is minded to reject the Joint Assembly's recommendation, then could the board explain the purpose of the Joint Assembly?
Thank you, Mr. Burford. Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Chair. £1.8 million has been spent to date, and the A428 Western Order project is now mired in complexity and controversy. Transport is about moving people and goods, not cars and buses. So let's look at how to improve the currently pretty miserable bus user experience. Camborne needs an attractive bus station close to the A428. The half-hourly Stagecoach X5 bus could then join the City 4, 18 and Whippet X3 to immediately provide a frequent service from 5:30 AM to 11:30 PM. Implementing inbound flow control on the A1303 would provide bus priority with just a 500-metre bus lane up to Madingley Wood. So will the board, 1, accelerate the Rural Travel Hubs project to bring a much-needed bus station to Camborne, 2, commission analysis of inbound flow control on the A1303 as an alternative to constructing 2 miles of busway or bus lanes, and 3, examine the implications of adding connections and the park and ride at the Girton interchange as set out in our A428 LLF resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Mr. Tomlinson.
Good afternoon, Chairman and our District Councillor. The technical group of the local liaison forum for Camborne to Cambridge Better Bus Journeys and others have identified glaring inaccuracies and blatant bias in the comparative assessment of route options 1, 3A and 6 and the assessment of the park and ride sites by the officers and their consultants. Experts have noted that this has occurred on previous reports. I suppose we should be grateful for the officers for keeping up the evidence of this happening. The question is therefore, and I do wonder, Chairman, whether there is a point in asking questions. I'm just waiting for the interim Chief Executive to listen.
We're reading your question. Don't worry, we are concentrating. Your question is written down on this piece of paper, so we're reading it.
Will the Executive Board please appoint consultants with no contractual or personal ties to the County Council Directorate of Economy, Transport and Environment or any other conflicts of interest to provide a genuinely independent technical review of options without influence by officers for the A428 Camborne to Cambridge Better Bus Journeys scheme?
Thank you, Mr. Tomlinson. Bill James. Oh, sorry. Should we go back to Gabriel Fox? He arrived.
I could read his question if you wish.
Why not?
I'm not going to read the length of the question because, as you know, you've got it in writing in front of you. The latter part of the question on page 28 is, will the board accept that a fair allocation of scores for options 1, 3A and 6 does not support the interim transport director's assertion at point 33 of his report that option 6 does not score as highly as options 1 or 3A, and that option 6 should therefore remain in the process and undergo a full, fair, and most importantly, independent assessment? And Gabriel has arrived.
Great. Thank you. So, Chris, would you present your presentation for this item? Thank you.
Thank you for that, Chairman. Thank you for the questions that we had beforehand and being able to look at them. In terms of the report is seeking to do two things. It's seeking to relook at the park and ride sites, and it's making a recommendation to you about a short list of sites to go further forward for further work to be done on them, to come back in September, you need to make a decision as to when what you wish to go out with in terms of consultation on the park and ride sites. It's also seeking, notwithstanding a number of comments that have been made, and I will go back through those, to get your agreement that option 6 should in fact be brought up to the same level of study as options 1 and 3A. May not be clear enough in the report, but Dr. Fox's comment about should this not be included, it doesn't tie in with my comment. Actually, that's a recommendation. The recommendation is quite clear. Notwithstanding what's on the MCAF table, then we should be looking at bringing up option 6 to the same standard that we had for options 1 and option 3A, so that when they come back to you in September, you can make an informed decision and they're all up to the same standard. So I think that's the first point. Notwithstanding everything else that's been discussed, we are actually recommending that these sites be brought, these alignments be brought back to you for further consideration in September. I think, there's a number of comments, and as I say, I will go back through the comments and reiterate. In terms of the park and ride sites, you asked us back in October to relook at park and ride sites, although in October, whilst Cromley wasn't mentioned in name, to all intents and purposes, that was the site that was being debated and it was discussed about extending it north and so on. But Cromley was the site that was in there. In addition to that, you asked us to look at Scotland Farm. When we re-looked at those sites, because of the way that the analysis goes in terms of transport, it can tend to swamp environmental, which is a major issue for people. understand that. So we divorced the transport element from it, and we looked purely at the environmental. And that is exactly what we've scored on environmental terms, to make sure that we get the sites that are least environmentally intrusive. And perhaps at this stage, if I could just, there was the point at the Assembly, and that perhaps at this stage I could explain why the recommendation is there for Cromley. Cromley, as I say, whilst not mentioned, was, to anybody looking, in that report that you recommended we go forward and we do further work. To have a disjoint just based on environmental issues only, because what we will now do is bring in all the other issues to look at these sites more fully, the recommended shortlist of sites. Because it includes environmental only, I have to say and strongly recommend, but obviously it is your decision, that you've got to have the logical link from the last report that was agreed to the decision that you make in September. And at this point, Cromley is still within that earlier report. And logically, because we've only considered environmental alone, and when you consider the report back in October, you consider everything in the rounds, including transport, then I strongly recommend that you do that again, and the report that comes back in September will then rank these shortlisted sites, and then you have a decision to make. But the logic chain is there. Otherwise, anybody looking at it will think, so how did we actually arrive from the October report to this report? Where did Cromley suddenly disappear to? And that could be an issue that could well come up in future discussions and debates as to how that decision was arrived at. Obviously a choice for you, but that is why we are recommending that Manningley Cromley site still remains in. Why the other three sites? When the consultant looking at these sites, and this is a different consultant to the consultant who looked at the sites earlier, when the consultant was looking at all the potential sites, because transport wasn't being taken into account at this stage, the logic process went, we have a long length of road here. You could find the Manningley mulch end of the road is a good point for a park and ride site in transport terms. You could find one midway up the 428 is a good point, or you could find one at the far end at Camborne. And it was on that basis they selected a site from each of those sections to put forward. So that gives you a full-rounded approach. When you get the report back in September, you can consider sites along the whole length. Otherwise, you might have found, for example, the sites were all at Camborne and everything else was ignored. These sites will now be assessed on transport terms, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of Manningley, Cromley, and the full analysis will come back to you to make your final decision for actually going out for consultation, no more than that, in September. So that was the logic why. There were some questions as to why the Camborne sites, as opposed to the Bourne-Lee site, Bourne site wasn't actually, they weren't included, but the Bourne site was. Simply because the Camborne site scored quite close to Bourne, but Bourne is a brownfield site. And the presumption's always got to be to look at brownfield sites. So that's why the two Camborne sites were there. Scotland Farm speaks for itself, because it's the only site in that midsection. And then the remaining area is around Manningley Mulch itself. And there was what's locally known as the water site, and Cromley, and I've explained why Cromley is there. So that's the logic. If you agree the shortlist today, then officers will go away, work them up more fully, and bring you a full appraisal back in September, and then you will have the decision to make which site or sites you go forward with for consultation. As I say, in terms of the alignment is there. Regardless of whether we can debate, and it is perspective, I accept that. The transport consultants, their perspective from their years of experience and knowledge. But yes, you could argue that some of the scoring that has come from the technical group from the LLF could just be as valid. Actually, it makes no difference. We're recommending option 6 is worked up to the full level so that you can appropriately consider option 6 alongside option 1 and option 3A. So all the debate about the MCAF table, whilst would be very interesting, and we'd all probably have totally different views, it's irrelevant. The recommendation to you, should you accept it, is that that alignment is brought up to the same level as option 1 and option 3A. If perhaps I can just take the questions quickly, if I could go through Helen's questions. We had this earlier on today about deferring the A4 to 8 until after the comparative study. No matter what the comparative study comes up with, which is only about modes of transport, it's not about alignments or anything like that, it's about the mode that's the most appropriate for Cambridge. There'll still have to be further work beyond that if it's found that particular modes could be preferable, and we will work at feasibility studies, and Helen mentioned about the Mayor's feasibility study. You're not actually being asked to agree anything. There will be nothing come back when you look at the timetable in the report. You're actually agreeing nothing in terms of committing the GCP and partners until June of next year, by which time we will have that information back. But I think the point there is that what you're actually agreeing now is looking at potential alignments. It doesn't make any difference. If it's ADRT, if it's light rail, it has to run on some form of transport corridor. Can it run down Manningley Road? Well, from the M11 certainly into town is probably the most congested and the least possible area to run even the bus lane. So where would we get a light rail through? Tunnelling might be the answer on that. But the point is you will still need a transport corridor. So nothing that we do here actually moves us away from a position that we cannot look to future-proof. There was the question around future-proofing. Does that mean we're agreeing to an ADRT? No, it doesn't. What you're agreeing to is the scheme that you've got in front of you now. If it's proposed to do different infrastructure on it, put rails on it instead of maybe a guided bus, and we're not even saying now that we are looking at guided bus, we're looking at transport corridor, an expressway, whatever you want to call it, then that will be the subject of future consultation, and that will be a future scheme. Whatever you agree now agrees to this. It does not agree to something in the future, notwithstanding the fact that what we do want to look towards. I'm not sure that's it. There's a phone somewhere. Anyway. So what you're agreeing now is this scheme now. What we're looking to do is to at least provide something that could actually take future transport, maybe like a light rail or an ADRT. We're making sure that what we're putting in doesn't actually detract from that. The next question was 3A was not suitable for ADRT. It would be the subject of further consultation and further work if ADRT was the preferred option out of the comparative study. What we are looking to make sure is that the alignment of it is such that it could possibly accommodate that subject to all the consultations. No. They're all off, so it's still crackling. It's not me. In terms of the consultants' code options, I think I've dealt with that. We could debate that, but actually, it's, to be quite frank, it's a bit nonsensical because the recommendation is to look at option 6. In terms of the sites, why not the top 3 sites? I think I've explained that in terms of we've segmented the road to try and give you a balanced approach to a site at the northern, at the western end, a site in the middle, and a site at the eastern end. Will the Exec Board uphold the Assembly's Crone Lead decision? Obviously that is a matter for yourself. I strongly recommend that from the point of view of the process and being seen to have that clear process, but having that point in September to take that further decision, that you allow Crone Lead to go forward on the basis that that was one of your sites that you considered back in October. And there is the disjoint as to why that suddenly comes out at this point when it's only a partial assessment that's being done purely on environment. Councillor Joseph talked about the future-proofing.
Sorry, Chris, just to experiment, can we switch yours off?
No.
people prefer to have a microphone with a crackle?
It's not a microphone, Chair.
Try and switch the whole system off at the board, and then we just speak loud.
Somebody's coming here with an intentional crackle.
I think we're just going to have to keep going. You're doing a good job, but we're just going to have to...
It's not even the phone giving feedback, Chair.
Put the microphone on.
Okay, I'm nearly at the end anyway, Chair, but obviously I think it's still, the crackle will still be there, whatever we do. It's someone from on high sending me a message.
Here we go.
So Councillor Joseph, on the future proofing, I think I've dealt with that in terms of why it wouldn't be appropriate to delay now. I don't think anything that you decide now would preempt what comes out of the solution to the comparative study. Gabriel Fox has mentioned this faulty scoring on option 6.
We're just testing it. Yeah.
It's now off. That's
We'll
good.
all speak loud.
Yeah.
That better? Try and mic it here.
Yes, go. Try first.
Right. So Dr. Fox mentioned about the faulty scoring. It hasn't affected the end result. The end result is that this option 6 goes in for full appraisal, and that will come back with option 3A, 1 and 6. Alan Tracy mentions about table 15. Again, about the scoring, I think I've answered that. In terms of the other questions, Alistair has mentioned about the Assembly's recommendation for Cromley. That is obviously a choice for yourself. I have to say, notwithstanding what Alistair has said, I would strongly recommend from the process point of view that remains in, certainly at this stage, until you have the full appraisal, and then that will come back to September and your decision can be taken at that point. And then there is that logic through it, and then your decision will be what your decision is. In terms of Edward, yes, the rural travel hubs, I mean, they have been really successful. I have got something coming up on the city access about a potential one out at Packworth. We are in discussion with Camborne, and we have been talking to the stakeholders and the town council and so on about bus journeys through Camborne, so we are in full discussion with them about that. Again, the idea of flow control, I do like looking at the idea. There are all sorts of reasons why there could be problems with it. It is not something I have completely ruled out. However, I think for a lot of things this is addressing the effect rather than the cause, although you might argue that doing some of the other work is doing exactly the same. But I think that is something that has to be taken in the rounds. You cannot do it on individual schemes. We had the same discussion on Milton. So if you're going to do it Milton, you do it on the 1303, we do it on the 1307, we do it on the 1409. We really need to do it on all the radios. It's not something you can do in isolation. Otherwise, you're just displacing the traffic and it becomes somebody else's problem. Roger Tomlinson, why don't we use independent consultant? We've used 2 consultants on here. We always look to use consultants that will come in with an independent mind. I mean, the key thing here is bus, with the exception of rail and light rail in certain areas, but that is more in your major cities, but we are looking at the comparator study. Bus is still the means by which you can transport most people around an area. So at the moment, that is the solution that we should be looking towards, notwithstanding the fact we are doing the comparator study. Chairman, happy to take any questions from the board.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Chris, and we'll do what we did before, which is questions for clarification, and then we'll have the board debate. Does anyone have any questions of clarification for Chris?
It wasn't really a question of clarification. Well, I suppose it is in a way, sorry. Given the decision we made this morning about a more strategic review of transport, I know this is still called the Better Bus Journeys scheme, for the sake of consistency, should we call it a better transport scheme, or try and link the two together a bit more? Because it may or may not be buses in the end, but we should at least have that open as a point.
Well, I think there's a merit to that. We called it A428, A1303, better busways. In a recent press release, we called it, we listened to the mayor and we called it the St Neots to Cambridge Expressway. Should we just ask officers to think about rechristening it rather than sort of draft on the hoof? But I think your essential point is taken. Ian, do you agree with the essential point?
Yeah.
We might come up with a new christening. Thank you. Any other? Ian?
Yeah, can I just actually take up the point about both the park and ride and the options on 6, 1 and 3A, and how those are procured, please? Will they go through the normal process, as we discussed this morning as well, about the procurement from consultants? Will they go through the normal process that is used throughout the country?
In procuring them today, yes, that has been the case. I have to say, it will be the same consultants that we are currently using because of the timescale, and they have got all the knowledge, and I appreciate that might cause concern, but the point is, I take the point that this is not just about us, and that will be very clear to them. We will be looking at the on-road, the off-road, with an open mind.
Do you have any questions for clarification? And I've just got a couple of clarifications. When you look at the page 153, 154, the comparison of options and rationale, am I right in understanding this is essentially a sort of preliminary indication? The point is you want now to work this up to the same quality standard as for option 1 and 3A. We've always said we want this to be an evidence-based process. The LLF and the Cody Parish Council has pressed for a full, proper, equal quality piece of work on option 6. Am I right? This is essentially either work in progress or an initial heads up, and it's the full works that we're waiting for.
It's exactly as you say, an initial heads up. It's to get the approval from you to do the full works on it. Bear in mind comments about the cost of the scheme today.
And then a similar question on page 147. We've got the scores for the park and ride sites, and you were very careful and correct to tell us this is an environmental assessment, not the whole thing, so a subset. Do you consider that the environmental assessment has been finished and these scores are therefore effectively ones that will go forward, or again is this more like an initial scoring?
Again, it's more like an initial. Obviously, there will be some of the environmental that will go ahead, but it's going to be rounded now with everything else, transport being one of them. Whilst transport was taken into account, there'll be far more detailed work on it to bring it up to the same standards that we have other sites.
Thank you. And then this final one is really a sort of question, but a clarification, but to try and bring out a point. That on page 141, there is a reference to some background papers, and I know the agenda was thick enough as it is, and people may not have downloaded the background papers, but one of the background papers is this McDonald's Park and Ride study background paper, which is good reading. And if I take us to page 22, paragraph 2.4, talks about the workshop. I just want to, can you just say a couple of words, Chris, about the workshop? Because I thought this was really good. This was, and I want to pay tribute to everybody that took part in the workshop. This was at Camborne Village College one evening. I think there were sort of 24 people, 4 tables. Everybody gave up 3 or 4 hours of their evening or something like that. So I want to pay tribute to that. I think everybody left feeling it worked really well. Paragraph 2.4 doesn't really summarise what came out of the workshop and what the views of the people at the workshop were. I don't know if now's the time where you summarise it, but how will their views get fed into the process if we approve it going forward?
So what the workshop was looking to do was identify what people felt were the key criteria for determining the appropriate location of park and ride sites. They weren't being asked to actually rank the park and ride sites. It was the sort of issues the consultant should take into account. Those issues will be the same issues the consultant will take into account when they do the more fuller analysis that you will get back in September.
There was a sort of backdoor ranking because people had to put pink or green sticky labels, didn't they? So there was a bit of backdoor ranking.
Yes, but that wasn't the total purpose. The total purpose was to get a feel for what were the key indicators that we should be considering for park and ride sites, or that the consultant should be considering.
But I think if we can agree that those views of interested parties can be taken into account, that would be great. Are there any more questions of clarification? Right. So we move on to the debate. I think there are three essential points that have come out. One is, should we pause the whole thing or should we keep going? The second is then, if we think we should keep going, should option 6 be taken forward? Should the study be taken forward to the full quality level? And thirdly, park and rides. Should we start on whether we should pause the whole thing or whether we should keep going? Councillor Lewis, you've had your hand up.
Thanks. So we've in part addressed the issue of the study in terms of the different options in item 9 this morning in terms of the mass transit options. So in the process, the board together with the mayor has agreed to jointly fund the study. We have to have evidence-based analysis about what are deliverable transport options. We know the mayor is an enthusiast for light rail, but until the study is completed, we're not in a position to come up with answers as to whether it's deliverable, fundable, and how it compares to different options for different routes. Clearly, to have a proposal for a light rail that is county-wide or is effectively a core system involves a very large sum of funding as well as a need for a lot of risk-taking by whoever's going to deliver it. There are significant issues of deliverability, of timescale. In a way, a little bit like points that have been discussed in relation to the A428 of, well, why don't you wait until why don't you wait until the Girton interchange is sorted out? So I think the issue for me as a board member is that we have local plans which in turn protect areas to the west of the city because they identify sites further out. And in delivering what we need to do, I as a board member take seriously the need for us to come up with solutions that will actually achieve the links to Cambourne, to any growth of Cambourne, potentially to Bourne Airfield, to St Neots, which is expected to grow significantly. Links that also take into account the likely growth of transport if the Oxford-Milton Keynes Expressway comes about. All sorts of other considerations, including until the Girton interchange is developed, we have a major blockage caused by the inadequate planning of the A14 without any ability to transfer other than by a local road. So we have, I could go on and on, but I think we are dealing with where we're at, and I don't have any hesitation to say that the work that is being undertaken has been worthwhile. We are now on that front doing a comparison of three options, taking account of the recommendation in front of us today. And I appreciate that the LLF has given this consideration, but I think it could be characterised as the LLF just wanting to block work for a period of time. And we respect that the LLF's got that view, but we don't agree with it. We believe, certainly that's my proposition. So in terms of how I'd propose making that clear, because I think in light of the LLF's resolution, I just think that we need to respond. And so I would propose, Chair, that we propose an amendment to recommendation 3A, and then we'll move on on to the substance, which is really about the park and rides at this meeting, with the wording that current wording, note the progress to date on the scheme development, and then add, and agrees that while the mass transit option appraisal takes place, comma, work must continue in parallel to develop existing proposals for connecting people between homes and jobs in Greater Cambridge, while ensuring they are future-proofed so that they can be adapted for new solutions as they emerge. If we were to adopt the LLF's recommendation, we would effectively say stop work on everything. And that is another evidence of a reference I made this morning, which is that tell the world to go away for a period of 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever. We are in a position where we are expecting an inspector's report in the autumn, and we are not in a position to duck supporting transport progress. Of course, we want this study to be undertaken. By December, we hope to have an outline study. We would hope that and expect that in the first 6 months of next year, we can answer some of the more complicated questions about fundability and deliverability of light rail. We've got other considerations. We've got the east-west rail proposals, which could involve a route from St Neots to Cambridge, where there may already have been done studies to undertake whether a tunnel east-west under Cambridge is practical, with work in that area being thought about by Network Rail. So we are not freezing, and that is one purpose in moving that amendment. And I move it not because it's the biggest issue in front of us, but because it's an issue which we need to address as a board, and then move on to the substance, which in terms of this agenda is about park and ride choice. Thank you.
Thank you. So we won't vote on that yet. We'll just continue our debate and discussion. I don't know if Phil or Ian, you want to add anything about the proposition of that. Should we move forward or should we pause?
Thank you. I was just going to draw people's attention really to page 18 of the report, which was with us this morning, which 2.1 clearly identifies the areas that we're looking at in respect of transport, which obviously includes things like light rail, monorail, etc. So I just want to draw that out for people who weren't here this morning in particular. Okay. I'd also actually just remind, I think, people that Highways England are required to start between Caxton Gibbet and the Black Cat roundabout on the A428 by 2020. They are required to do that. There's been a lot of consultation with them already, and there are certainly lots of people suggesting the route that might take. That consultation is not completed yet, but it will, I think, influence that particular corridor, particularly from St Neots. And I would just wish to mention also the Central Beds, which is just over the border from St Neots, have got some aspirations for some considerable housing in Central Beds, which is just literally over the border at St Neots. And I think I'm just highlighting really the urgency of making sure that all those local plans are taken into consideration when we're looking at the corridor between, on the 428 corridor. I'm not in favour at the moment with delaying any further. I think we have got a recommendation to go forward, and I think we should go forward, bearing all the caveats that we will need to take at future meetings when we are aware of this report, which we approved of this morning, with the combined authority.
Thank you, Ian. Phil.
Thank you. I'm not going to prolong the discussion because I think, as Lewis has pointed out, we have other things to discuss today. The point I made this morning when we agreed to jointly fund the mass transport study was that we need to distinguish between transport routes and modes. I think that's the point that Lewis is making. We can't delay. It's the point that I discussed with the Mayor last Friday, and he agreed that we need to distinguish between the two and not delay the transport routes in a discussion about the modes of transport that might go on those routes. So I would fully agree with the proposition and with Lewis's proposal.
Thank you. That's the view I share, that there is a difference between the route and we must future-proof the route, and there is a difference between what goes on it and what goes on it may change over time as technology advances. I remember as a 6-year-old being taken by my children, by my parents, to watch, there was a magnetic levitation monorail that was being proposed. You know, that we we must move with the times. Some of the futuristic stuff doesn't come in, some of the futuristic stuff does. But the one common theme is that they all have to go on a route. I'm going to continue the debate, and we'll come on to resolutions in a moment. The next one on our list is the park and ride site. We've got a recommendation from officers for 4 to go through to the next stage study. The Assembly has suggested cutting that down to 3. Chris, you talked eloquently about the process point and that it would be wrong to cut it down to 3 right now from a process management point, because so far we've just looked at environmental, not the whole works. Should we have a debate on that one? I don't know if anyone's got a point on that, on the park and ride point. Should we have 4 or 3 going through to the September study?
My view is we should assess the 4 in total. Thank you.
I thought that the points that Chris made were cogent and compelling, and I think we should keep it in for the time being.
Well, I've got concerns about the Crowley site, but I just think that the process is one where we have to evidence that we've linked our decisions, and we cannot, I don't think, conduct an assessment without including Crowley, because just to kick it out, we haven't actually evidenced the reasons to do that.
And I'm afraid that the Assembly didn't evidence its reasons or give us reasons either. And then if we look at what will be C in a moment, which is should we go forward to take option 6 and study that up to the same standard as the study of 3A, do we have any views and comments on that?
Well, I think we have to note some of the concerns that have been expressed about the assessment and make sure that we can demonstrably show that the final assessment is neutral and independent.
I agree with that, and I think I was heartened by your comments that what we've been shown so far is not the final assessment, it's just, I don't know what you would call them, working papers or something like that. So I'm going to move us to the resolution on page 133, paragraph 3, which has set out A, B, C, D as words on the page. Although the Assembly asked us in 3B to add some words taking out Crowley, I don't think I hear anyone today proposing that as an amendment. And I have heard Lewis propose that 3A is amended. And I'm going to read out your words. Note the progress to date on the scheme development. And the board agrees that, while the mass transit options appraisal takes place, work must continue in parallel to develop existing proposals for connecting people between homes and jobs in Greater Cambridge, brackets, whilst ensuring they are future-proofed so they can be adapted for new solutions as they emerge. I'm going to propose that that's the substantive resolution, 3A as amended like that, B, C, D. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Lewis. So we'll now take a vote. All those in favour? All those against? Phil, you don't have a vote, but if you had a vote, how would you have voted?
I would vote for it.
Great, thank you. I think I explained to everybody that Mark Reeve is absent. So we'll move on now to agenda item 13, cross-city cycling, which starts on page 55. I don't think the Assembly had any comments on this, and they supported the recommendations. We've got a local member who wants to speak, Councillor Damien Tunnicliffe, and then we have 3 public questions: Bill Jenks, Cambridge Cycling Campaign, and Radwagon. Now, Radwagon wasn't here this morning. Is Radwagon here now? So now we've got 2 public.
Given me permission to read this question if you want to hear it.
Yeah. So we will take Councillor Damien Tunnicliffe now. No, he's not here. We'll go on to Bill Jenks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I read from the front?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, everyone, and councillors and officers who've been kind enough to spare some time talking about the issue beforehand. If I may read, so it's actually kept to its time limit. I've lived on Green End Road between Scotland Road and Water Lane, the tiny section, for 25 years. I walk and bike and bus around the city. I'm in favour of the cycleway project where it solves problems but doesn't cause any new ones. But the proposal to install double yellow lines on both sides of the road with no waiting time at all introduces new and serious health and safety risks to some residents, the consequences of which could be serious, and I'll quickly explain why and propose what I hope is a win-win compromise where everyone can be happy. It's accepted we have no right to parking on highways, but we do have rights to some essential service visitors, surely, who would not or shouldn't be obstructed or criminalised by double yellow lines 24 hours a day. Some of our residents are elderly or ill and rely on health and social care visitors who are increasingly on tight schedules, some as short as 15 minutes. Also, residents without spare parking will need visitor spaces very close by for vital services such as gas, power, drains, tree surgery and so on. They need their heavy equipment close. Other things like delivery, setting down, picking up taxis, and especially and increasingly, sadly, hospital transport need to be able to pull over. The officer's report pack is wrong and misleading when it says that most houses on our section have large drives with space for visitors. Our 150-metre road has 30 houses, of which only 10, and that's a minority, have visitor space on their land. On the west side, there are no visitor spaces at all in between the 14 houses. The officer's report amazingly says that residents requiring essential visitors will have to make alternative arrangements. There are no alternative arrangements for this kind of visitor on very fleeting timescales or those with heavy kit. It's impractical to park further away, and spare visitor parking capacity in the areas become occupied permanently by cars from the many, many new high-density builds granted permission without any parking spaces whatsoever. A city council matter, I think so. A clash of ideologies, indeed. I've spoken to many residents, and really many are very worried about the extent of the parking ban to prevent visits of any kind at any time. Many have not been able to deal with the consultation or have only contacted city councillors and not the county council or highways. Many of us have entered the parking intention on the blind corner, which is the current proposition. The blind corner near the hairdressers and takeaway. We think that's a very dangerous and it's non-essential for health and safety to buy chips or have your hair cut. We do ask you to consider a compromise arrangement, and it's this: to have double yellow lines, yes, on both sides of the road, yes, but allow parking, except in rush hour periods, on the east side, and that's on the straight stretch where everyone can see what they're doing. There are 6 spaces there, about the same as currently proposed to be able to park next to the chips. So instead of causing new problems, this suggestion would be a win-win for all stakeholders, safer than the blind bend parking compromise for cyclists. It gives a clear run for the bicyclists at peak times, which is really where it's very busy, and I can see a great improvement. Essential visitor access for residents would be okay, and it will be easier for visitors to go and get their chips. So, lastly, speed calming of traffic has become even worse recently since the bike lanes went in, I'm afraid, because our local neighbours in the Fen estate with their 4x4s and transits see them as a challenge. You could put landmines there and they'd enjoy it even more. So, key points, only this, that we're very worried to be denied all visitors by nature of the proposition, are keen to change the proposition from the blind bend for some parking to the straight section. Thank you.
Thank Yeah. So, Mr. Judge, what we've done normally is run through all questions, but you're talking about something very specific, and I think we're on page 162 of our agenda, and I'm tempted that we just continue on this for a moment. Roxanne, is your Cambridge Cycling Campaign question or your Red Wagon question about page 162?
I can't see the pages.
Well, it's about the green end, about the same matter.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to speak? And then we'll do Mike, but so we'll just stay on this page 162 green end matter.
Just gives you another perspective on the same stretch. CamCycle believes that the proposal to permit parking in the cycle lane on Green End Road is dangerous and ruins the entire purpose of the scheme in the first place. We request that the Executive Board to please reject the proposed traffic regulation order and instead restore double yellow lines to the entire cycle lane. In the case of the businesses that believe they will need cycle parking directly outside their premises, we note that they currently have a planning application filed for the property, which would offer a fantastic opportunity to resolve the issue through the creation of a segregated cycleway next to the footway in a manner that will put the parking spaces for cars between the cycleway and the carriageway and ensure a safe journey for cyclists past the stores, along with parking for cars. So we ask the Executive Board, will you support this resolution to create a safe, protected cycleway and parking availability for businesses? I do think there's some opportunity here to look at this a bit more.
That's your question as Cambridge Cycling Campaign. Have you got a Red Wagon question?
I don't actually have his question. I can read it if you want.
Apologies for interrupting. I'm not actually sure who this group is. Can I please actually be assured? Who are they and what name are they? I need some clarification, please.
Sure. So I'm speaking on behalf of Cambridge Cycling Campaign. Ride Wagon, that is his name. That's what he is known by. He's not a member of Cambridge Cycling Campaign. I just happened to be in contact with him and asked if he would like me to read his question.
So what is his name?
That is his name.
That is his name. Thank
yes.
You. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Did he ask you?
I said, where are you today? They're asking for your question. I'm here if you want me to read it. He said that would be great.
Right, read it, please.
Thank you. Okay. How much money was spent on the Green End Road cycleway, which is demonstrably more dangerous to ride there now, as well as being taken over by a car park scheme, and can it be recouped for proper cycle infrastructure? Question number 2, will the advice to policy regarding leniency on pavement cycling be set in stone throughout these schemes?
Right, thank you for the questions. Mike, you want to talk? We'll just talk about Green End now, and then we'll come to the White Road. So for everyone's benefit on page 162, Matt.
Well, just to respond firstly to Mr. Jenks's points. As part of the no waiting restrictions that are proposed, there are a number of exemptions which will address many of the concerns he's raised and will allow residents to conveniently receive some of the services outlined. The exemptions do include loading and unloading, essential maintenance and building works, wedding and funeral cars, post office vehicles, emergency vehicles and taxis. As can be seen on page 162, there is parking nearby on the street, some of the other roads, Enniskillen Road, Ashfield Road and Scotland Road. Carers and health workers could use these areas, or indeed the residents could allow use of their driveways by moving their own cars. On the east side of this length of Green End Road, all properties have 2 off-street parking spaces, with the exception of 3 recently built smaller houses which have 1 space. On the west side, these are the older properties of this length of Green End Road, all properties have at least 1 off-street parking space, except for the 2 which are nearest to Scotland Road at the northern end. And this road has on-street parking available. There's also 7 off-street garages located off Green End Road, though I haven't been able to ascertain who uses or owns these. The proposed TRO was advertised in the local press and on streets by the County Council's policy and regulation team, and that was in a manner consistent with all other TROs based upon DFT procedures. The scheme seeks to generally keep cycle lanes clear of parked vehicles. Some objectors, as we've heard, feel that the proposal does not go far enough in keeping the lanes entirely clear. As with most streets in the city, there are competing demands for space. In this case, cycle lanes, shop-related parking and residential parking. On balance, I feel that some short-stay parking should be made available outside the shops. This equates to a length of 40 metres. Given that the residents in all but 2 cases have off-street parking, and that there is on-street parking nearby, I feel that their call on street space is less than the needs of the cyclists or the shops. But I would say TROs can be revised and altered. As the new Cambridge North station becomes more well used and developments around the new station follow, this may trigger the need to review parking on a wider scale in East Chesterton. But this won't be included in the first phase of reviewing areas for residents' parking schemes. Just to turn to Cam Cycle's points, the length outside the shops is being proposed to be left as an area for parking, as I say, 40 metres long. There is a planning application that's been submitted to reconstruct the site and to provide flats above the takeaways. The project team have discussed this application with City Council planning staff to explore the possibility of a lay-by being provided by the applicant. To install a lay-by would require that the area currently in private ownership outside the shops be converted into footway and thus become part of the public highway in order to accommodate the lay-by and ideally with a bypass cycle lane on the inside of it. Utility, diversions, protection, curbing, drainage works and footway and carriageway resurfacing would make lay-by construction relatively expensive. Useful shop frontage, space for A-board, cycle parking and litter bins would be reduced to virtually nothing. Less cars could park in a lay-by than in the current cycle lane proposal due to the approach and departure flares in the lay-by. And so due to these reasons, the planners feel that imposing such a condition on the applicant would be unreasonable. Turning to Radwagon, the money spent on the cycle lane is £344,822.58. This does include planing out and inlaying a new 1.5 metre wide cycle lane from Nuffield Road to Water Lane in red tarmac. Curb radii were also tightened up on all of the side roads, involving extensive drainage and curbing works, carriageway and footway resurfacing, and other works including tactile paving slabs, bollards and new trees. Floating bus stop will also be installed near Franks Lane. All of the above also requires setting out and maintaining traffic management, welfare facilities for the workforce and advanced surveys. The final point about cycling on footways, it's accepted generally that primary age children may cycle on footways if they're doing so considerably. Older children and adults should not ride on footways unless they are clearly signed as scheduled paths. Preventing pavement cycling is regularly a policing priority in North Cambridge. And with the new cycle lane and 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, most cyclists should feel safe enough to not have to cycle on the footway in Green End Road. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I think we'll just continue on this one. If anybody has a question of clarification for my comments.
Apologies, Mr. Chairman. I'm trying to link to what the speaker said to what Mr. Davis has said. I'm struggling a little bit with the map as well. Okay, so could you just clarify? I'm looking at the map on page 162.
Chris, do you have a copy of the map? Mike, sorry, do you have a copy of the map?
I've got a colour copy. Yes, I've got it. I'm trying to leave what the speaker said and what you said to see where there is consensus and where there is not. So, could you help, please?
I will, yeah. Well, I think the area Mr. Jenks is concerned about is in this length of Green End Road, where the double red lines are. And as I've explained, most properties, all bar two, have got off-street parking.
No. Well, how did you work that out?
Well, I checked.
I beg your pardon. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry, I'm very sorry. I'm going to, you may disagree, but
I'm not
your
used
time.
to the protocol.
Your time. I'm very sorry.
I should say that's my professional view, having looked at the site and noted the driveways and the cars parked on them. So my view is that if carers and the likes are coming, they can use those off-street spaces which have residents' cars on them. If not, there is available parking just round the corner in Scotland Road and some of the other side roads.
Any more questions or clarification? Discussion and debate. Lewis, do you want to kick off? And we're just going to do the Green End Road one, and then we will come to the other two.
Well, I think just having listened to people when I've talked to people in East Chesterton and also the two councillors, including councillors Jerry Bird, Peter Saris and Ian Manning, who gave us the comments as part of the question this morning. It's a proposal. I think I just think we should suck it and see, and clearly if we find that there are significant problems in that area, then we can revisit it. I think Mr. James, if I was starting from scratch, I think what Mr. James has proposed merits consideration. I think now that we've consulted on this, I think I propose that we suck it and see, and then we can consider the options if there are problems. And I think Mr. James is an alternate option that is something that might get looked at again.
Any other things to add to the discussion? Ian or Phil, do you want to say anything?
I know this area only vaguely, and I don't really feel to be in a position to make an informed judgment on it, but I would go along with Bruce's interpretation.
Can I perhaps make a further suggestion that at some point, maybe in 9 months after the introduction, bearing in mind the Cambridge North station is starting to pick up, okay, that there is, asking the officers trying to take a review, okay, I would be advised, I'm thinking 9 months, but that could be flexible, I suggest possibly, and that may actually then help the residents in this area, particularly the carers come in, and I think that may be a sensible way forward.
Chair, it clearly is a challenge knowing the street well, that you've got businesses that would just not be able to trade, and I don't think we're in a position just to limit the choice that the people needing to use those businesses so far that it would just effectively risk killing one.
So I'm not going to call for a vote now because we'll do it again, but I sense that the mood of the board is to approve the TRO as written in front of us. Okay, it's going to reverse now.
With council votes.
With council votes.
I'm happy to make that as a suggestion.
Well, we'll put it in a minute, potentially, yeah. If we go backwards, page 161 is the Ditton Lane cycleway. I think there were no objections to the TRO there. If I'm right.
Chair, shall I just briefly run through it?
If there were no objections,
sure.
I don't think we need to run through it.
Sure. There was only one other scheme with objections.
Yeah, so then going backwards again, page 160 is Fulbourn Cherry Hinton Road, and that had no objections. And then going backwards, we've got page 159, which is Hills Road Cycleway, where I think there were some objections, and you might talk us through those kindly.
Sure, thank you, Chair. Yeah, the thinking here was to try and keep Hills Road cycleway clear at the busiest times, and therefore limit loading and unloading to off-peak times. There were 7 objections against this proposal, but there was also 15 comments of support. They're all outlined in the appendix. Thank you.
And we have nobody who wants to speak on those. Do we have any discussion on that among the board?
Chair, I need to declare an interest as I live on Hills Road in a section of that TRO, proposed TRO, so I'd ask if that vote could be taken separately because I wouldn't be able to vote on any of these recommendations otherwise.
Right, so I'm going to take us to on page 155, which is the recommendations number 5. We had no comments from the Assembly. 5A, we note the objections and comments. Can we have a vote that we note them? Feel happy? A vote on number B that we approve them. We're going to do Hills Road first. Lewis is not going to vote. I'm going to vote in favour. So is Ian. You would approve. We're going to do the other 2. I'm going to vote in favour. You can vote this time. Bill, I think it's right. 5C, we vote to inform the objectors accordingly. And 5D is that in future we will not receive orders with no objections. Who will agree with that one? Yeah, thank you. Great. So we're now going to move. We're going to have a 2-minute comfort break and we'll resume in 2 minutes.